to the PTSD Alchemy video series. My name is Lucy Boychich, and I'd like to introduce myself to you. I have been researching trauma my entire life, it seems. I was born in Canada to Croatian parents and have a very large family in Croatia. During the 90s, Croatia had a war as it broke free from Yugoslavia, and my entire family was there, except for my immediate family, which were here in Canada with me. I had graduated high school early at the age of 18 and decided to go to Croatia to do my part. I was a weird kid. My friends were all at the mall. But I decided to go and teach Bosnian refugee kids in Zagreb. And this was really my first exposure to people who were new and had just begun suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. As I later discovered, I come from a long line of trauma as a result of previous wars, but that I'll get into later. Here in Zagreb, in 1994, I just aged myself, I was dealing with these children that had post-traumatic stress disorder and teaching them art and English, and realizing some of the devastating effects that trauma can have. It really had a huge impact on me. 4 years later, as I was graduating from fine arts at York University, I decided to do my honors thesis on war art and returned to Sarajevo, which is the capital of Bosnia. And there I spent months researching, interviewing, talking to residents and artists about their experience of the war, and talking to the artists who made art and installations, and how the city really thrived and spiritually fought the war and what was going on around them, and their trauma through making art by attending cultural events, even for those who had never been exposed to anything prior to the war, and researching really how that helped people heal. What I didn't realize was that I would complete that circle by eventually developing my own post-traumatic stress disorder. So I took a huge departure from being an artist and became a federal enforcement officer with the Canada Border Services Agency. I worked with them for several years and increasingly realized that the stress was becoming overwhelming. I'm stubborn. I didn't listen to those whispers. Those whispers became shouts. And in August of 2012, I was finally diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder after I was ordered to fly directly into a hurricane with a colleague as we deported somebody with violent criminality back to their home country in the Caribbean. This was part of my regular duties. And if you asked me now for any reason to get onto a plane heading into a hurricane, there's no way I would do it. But at the time, I was following orders, and the nature of my job was dealing with trauma and dangerous situations on a very regular basis. So, I didn't understand at the time. I thought, I'll be off for a couple weeks and I'll come back to work. But that's not how post-traumatic stress disorder operates. In fact, 6.5 years later, I am still working on healing it, although things have gotten much, much better. In 2015, the effects of the PTSD, the chronic fear, the terror, the seemingly never-ending triggers started to manifest physically, and I developed rheumatoid arthritis. It started by filling my lungs with fluid, and eventually my body, and completely shutting me down. It had become lethal for a long time. And I was in the darkest place I had ever been. I was, quite frankly, ready to die. All signs were there. My body was shutting down. And emotionally and spiritually, I was exhausted from years of battling triggers and anxiety and fear and depression, and dealing with the apocalyptic fallout in my life, the difficulties I was having with my friends and family and relationships, because when these things happen, it has a pretty devastating effect in your life. Along the way, though, I learned an incredible amount about the brain, about the human spirit, about healing, and met really incredible healers along the way. I tried everything from pyramids to pilgrimages, witch doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists, energy workers, you name it. Tons of body work and different kinds of things. And some of those modalities were really incredible. I would like to introduce you guys to some of those healers, talk about the pros and cons of different modalities of healing, so that if you're out there and you just really don't know what your options are, I'd like to introduce you to some of them. And if they resonate with you, you can find healers in your area that do that kind of practice and might be able to help you. I'd also like to introduce you to some of the really incredible human beings that I call my friends, that have survived their post-traumatic stress disorder, and the ways in which they've done that, or if it's people that have survived their mental health challenges and physical challenges. But there are so many stories of hope. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. It does get better. For those of you that find yourself in that pitch black place, which I unfortunately know ever so well, I hope that I can provide some light for you, so that you know that it does get better. Those triggers pass. And since those darkest days of my life, and the times when I really prayed to God that I could die, I have experienced the best days of my life since. I've returned to my art practice. I have really changed everything about my life in such wonderful ways. And I would like to share some of those tips and tricks with you, and hopefully help you understand that things do get better, that PTSD does not mean the end of your life, that it gets better. Time between triggers gets a lot longer. The intensity of a trigger, when it does happen, diminishes greatly. And there are things you can do in the meantime to help you out. And when you do get triggered, there are practices and healers or modalities that can help you lessen the intensity of that trigger and help you get out of it quicker. So join me as I talk about all these different things, and together we can discover new things. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out to me. You can find out more about me at ptsdalchemy.com. And if you like this video, please like it, and please subscribe to my page. I will be posting a couple times a week, days to be determined, and I would love to hear from you. And thank you. Thanks for listening, and see you again soon. Wishing you all good things always. And remember, it'll get better. I promise.